Hey everyone, welcome to the Truth Dojo. My name is Joshua, and it's really nice to see a lot of new faces today. And we are going to have a really um, interesting topic today, which is a sort of a one-time event topic because of all the craziness and current events. Today's topic is called "What is Real?" Question mark. And so we're gonna kind of look at that from a few different angles. Um, First, I want to say thank you all for joining up. This is the first time that we're using a new meeting ID today, and this meeting ID is secret. So this is so that we have some idea of how people are connected, how people found us, so that we have some sort of screening process. Not everybody today was able to maybe get the application form link, and that's okay. It's a very simple form. Um, the form basically outlines the guidelines. I don't know if you all were able to look at the guidelines. Basically, it's pretty simple stuff. If you have some um, emotional intelligence training or something like that. Basically, like no shaming people and no advice giving unsolicited. Like if you want to give someone advice, like have their permission. And then one of the important questions on the application is, do you have any history of mental health issues? And this isn't meant to exclude people, but this is just because some of the energy here can get a little intense. Um, the the work that we're doing here is getting us acclimated to intensity and recognizing that intensity can be safe and intensity doesn't need to be a sense of feeling dangerous. And we're getting um, we're bringing harmony into intensity in that way. And so that's what Truth Dojo really has helped me with, and I think has helped a lot of people with. So if there is some discomfort, if somebody does have some kind of uh, history of mental health issues, um, it would be important to, let's say, let me know that. Like, I'm not sure if I can handle intensity. You can chat that to me. And then also, in the past, if it becomes too much for somebody, you can always take a break for a few minutes and you can come back if you need to. So there's no pressure. But ideally, you would be able to share, I just want to say this feels intense for me right now, and I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling triggered, and that's okay. And this is the Truth Dojo, right? We're bringing our truth. So there's nothing you can do that's wrong. I would suggest uh, not leaving until we're done, unless you really have to go and we're toward the end or something. But I would suggest not leaving as a reaction to any particular situation, and we can work through it. It's a great group of people. Everyone is uh, very not only trustworthy, but just really dedicated to their transformational process. So that's my introduction for the business stuff. I'll get more into I'll give my little sermon thing in a little bit when it comes to the topic of what is real. But before I do that, I would love to give anyone who is a first timer an opportunity to say briefly what brought you here today. And I forgot to mention also, today is the first time that the sessions. Um, if you're a first timer, it's always free. For first timers, it's free. Um, but otherwise, today is the first day of our paid session. So if you um, so the standard pricing for new members is $33 a month, and the um, that will work out through me. So if you do decide you want to stay and you want to message me after that, we can talk about it. No pressure right now. Just have fun, enjoy yourself. Yeah. So if you're a first timer, I would love to hear what brought you today, and you can kind of popcorn and go at what order feels right to say who you are. Click.
Hi, I'll jump in.
Great.
Jerome introduced me, so I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. I've been on a really big transformation journey over the last 3 or 4 years to unravel and rewire neural pathways that have put me in chronic pain. So my psychological well-being means that I'll have physical well-being as well. So I think this might be part of that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, really nice to have you here. Jason.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in. Well, just to explain a little bit about myself, I've been into shamanism now for, I don't know, pretty much 8 years. Spent a bit of time with some shamans, master shamans, and venditas, drank ayahuasca, done probably 12 DMT ceremonies for myself and other people. Been right into the ether, as I like to call it, into the spiritual realms. Met a few deities, Hindu deities, Kali, and some people like that. Lots of things happened, really. The reason I've come to this group is because I had contact with, I think it's your brother, isn't it, Elmer? And he did something for me energetically, which I really felt like while he was doing it inside, some kind of Kundalini thing, and it was very similar to experience to drinking the ayahuasca and stuff like that. I'm struggling a bit at the minute because I'm holding a crystal. The power of the group seems quite intoxicating. So I'm just trying to keep balanced at the minute. Hot flushes, stuff like that. But I kind of knew things like this would come through. I feel like my third eye is pretty open, you know, and I've got a lot of mixed views to do with what you were talking about earlier, you know, what is real. When I spent time with a master shaman from the Amazon jungle, she runs Sacred Tree Essences. Her name's Mimi, she's the master shaman. I met her down in London, in England, when she came home to see her mum. And she did a process for me, which was called a vendita. I don't know whether anyone's ever familiar with this process, but she used like this leaf, I don't know what the leaves are called, but something like shakura or something like that. You know what they beat in the drum when they do the Icaros? So it's like
Chakruna.
Chakruna, that's it, yeah. So thank you. And I closed my eyes and she did the shakura with the leaves, and she seemed to be able to change reality, like in my closed eye vision. So it was very sort of DMT, ayahuasca-esque. But this was just through singing the Icaros. So she sung in, I think it's like a Puerto Rican sort of Spanish, you know, the Lehiti, like this, yeah? And I was kind of like traveling down a tunnel, and there was guys, and they had their arms out like this, like golden men. And I was traveling down this tunnel, and I was kind of like going underneath all these statues. And then I reached this point where there was these buildings, and there was kind of like symbols that were showing up, like ancient Aztec symbols, but they were in sort of like gold leaf, sort of like glitter, like almost like a firework. So they were going like this, and they seemed like they were passcodes, but I hadn't taken anything. You see, when I'd taken the ayahuasca and the DMT.
Oh, can I pause you for a second?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So this is a great intro. So I think we're all getting you know, you've gone into some really deep stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm very open.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to save some more of this for later when we get into the topic, what is real, and we can dive into more of your personal story. If that's cool.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Cool.
Do you want me to mute?
If you don't mind, but I want to just say welcome, and it's really nice to have you here.
Yeah, I went off on a tangent, didn't I?
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. We'll do it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no worries. I'll let somebody else talk.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hello, shall I jump in now?
Yes.
Excuse
we can
me.
hear you.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you.
I'm Sarah, and I'm here in the UK. I reached out to Jason this morning because over the last couple of weeks, I felt energy has been very stuck for me personally. I've always been extremely susceptible to energies as a child, and 3 years ago, which is how I found Jason, things amped up, severely amped up for me, and my visuals with reality became lucid, very lucid. So this has sent me rocketing more on my journey. But over the last couple of weeks, I've been feeling really quite stuck, and I've found you guys. So I'm hoping that is going to help me find my flow.
Wonderful. That's perfect reason. I'm so glad to have you here. Yeah.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Cool. And I think Evan is the last one. Yep. Yeah, Evan, do you want to unmute yourself? There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
I'm having Zoom problems. Isn't that great?
It's working for me.
Okay, great. So Katie brought me here. Joshua brought me here. I'm very new to spirit and energy, and I don't even know exactly what the day is going to bring. But Independence Day and the 4th of July and everything that this year has brought me here to this moment. And I'm just going to keep saying yes and honoring that and see where it takes me.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And Katie and Evan just went on a cross-country road trip from New York to LA. And so they had some pretty epic tales that Katie's been telling me about, and that's just super inspiring.
Thank you, Joshua.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to meeting you in person. Cool. So thank you everyone for joining us, and I just really want to. Oh, May, this is your first time, huh? I forgot because I've talked with May so many times. I forgot this was your first time in Truth Dojo.
Hello, yes, my name is May, my first time here. Really happy to be here and checking this out. And I'm based in Sweden, in Stockholm. I've been interested in some sorts of understanding my own reality since I was 19. And I think similar to Sarah, things really got more intense for me about 3-4 years ago. Started feeling lots of, I didn't quite know what that was. So like energetic type of thing. I think this was about maybe a year after I drank ayahuasca and started going down that path. And there was 2 years following that where everything was very unstable, and I think about a year ago things start to calm down. So this is where I am.
Cool, thank you. I'm a really big fan of May, actually. I don't know if you know this, but your lifestyle just like inspires me so much. I see you doing like the coolest stuff on your Facebook pictures, and always really like wow, May is badass.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So really nice to have you here. Cool. So thank you everybody for joining. I want to just say to everybody who is a what we're calling founding members, people who have been with us for a while, I'm just so blessed and so honored. I feel like such a solid family, and it's really, I never could have imagined that, you know, we could all come together with this kind of harmony. And I was just, I can't even tell you like how much this means to me in my personal life. Just everybody who just keeps showing up, and it's like, it's just mind blowing. It just, and heart melting. It's incredible. So I can't express enough how much that means to me, but I just want to thank you. And for those of you who are first timers, it's important to know that we have like a facilitation team, you could say. So this is, so Katie and I recently are officially a couple, but before that, we were also, she's one of the facilitators, and then Hilmar is also one of the, like his incredible superpowers are really hard to describe. I would definitely recommend getting to know the facilitators. And Chanel is also on our team, and Chanel's been helping me a lot with getting things organized in ways that I just can't wrap my mind around, and so that's been a real blessing. So thank you, Chanel. Okay, cool. So thanks for your patience while we got some business stuff out of the way. I'm gonna, you know, normally we start with a few minutes of a guided meditation to just everybody ground. So I'm not gonna go too deep into that right now, but maybe we could just do a few deep breaths together just to kind of land on the same page, and then I'll give my little discussion on the topic of the day. So if you could just close your eyes, ideally put your feet on the floor, and feel the space around you, and feel what your body feels like. And we're just going to do, let's say, 5 long deep breaths together. So breath 1, breathe it in as deep as you can, and out. Breath 2, as deep as you can, and out. Breathe. Ah. 4. And for breath 5, just hold it in a little bit longer. Hold it. Hold it. And out. Awesome, thank you. And that's for me as much as it's for you. So I'm going to introduce the topic, and we're going to then transition into part 2 of Truth Dojo, which is where everybody gets to share their perspective. We'll try to stay on topic, and if somebody gets a little bit too off topic, we're going to need to rein it back in. Nothing personal. We just want to keep it focused so that we can go as deep as possible. And sometimes there are defense mechanisms that distract unintentionally, and so we know nobody's doing that on purpose, but we want to focus on the topic so we can really be with the energy of whatever comes up. So we'll open the floor after I introduce here. I talked about this a little bit in the interview that Chanel guided me through in the YouTube video recently. I don't know if everybody saw that, but I might repeat a little bit of what I said in this interview. The topic, what is real? We're in a time right now in our world where we have a global civilization, and so what happens around the world affects everybody. Decisions that are made in other countries, decisions that are made in foreign, remote areas affect people around the world, on the other side of the world, and it all interweaves into our lives in various ways. You know, we have food systems, we have thought systems, we have trauma, we have education, we have housing. There's like so many issues. Being a human is complex. And politics, all that stuff. And I want to bring into our awareness the complexity that being a human involves, because that complexity can become very distracting, and that complexity can become very addictive. We can really start to fixate on what we don't want, and this can distract us from our creative essence. This can distract us from what our soul really wants to birth into the world. And so from my perspective, and I'll probably come back to this a few times throughout the session, the core of what is real is you, right? Nothing is more real to you than you. So anything that feels more real than you is fictional, because you are the most real thing in your world. And if we are distracted by all of the other things that seem like they're not you, this can be very confusing. So this is my core philosophy. I'm welcome to, if you disagree, if you want to challenge that, it's all good. This is just my initial seeds that I want to plant. So Truth Dojo is not my truth. Truth Dojo is just what is the truth, right? It's like we're all finding this together. When we are fed lies, you know, when we're fed lies that are created to be lies intentionally by manipulative people, manipulative systems, areas of our lives that are disguised to be something that they're not, it distracts us, it's emotionally manipulative, it brings out our trauma, and then when we're not able to see our trauma, we forget that we are at the center of our experience. So maintaining our identity as the center of our experience can be hard to accomplish. It can be, like I said, distractions can take us out of our center. So this is my premise. This is what's important to me. I want to hear what's important to you. I want to hear what is real for you. I want to hear what challenges you have around identifying what is real. And like I said, we're not going to be giving each other advice, but we might be asking each other hard questions. And if somebody wants advice, I encourage you to say, you know, I'm open to receiving feedback about this. I'm open to having somebody see deeper into my reality so that I can come back into my center. It might be different answers for everybody. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. And that's what this space is about, is creating space for life to be a big gray area, life to be complex. And then, in my perspective, truth is always beyond words. Truth is always beyond language. Truth is a direction, which is, you could say, the opposite of shame. Truth is the direction that our soul is flowing into evolution, and it's not about language in any way, in my perspective. So we're moving the energy in this process, and we're of course going to use words to move that energy and to identify how we're framing things. And I encourage you to be flexible with what you think and what you believe, so that we can find what's really at the core and find a deeper sense of ourselves at the center of this. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to see what comes next. And you're speaking into this space, I see as like a divination. Your speaking into this space is a holy choice. So that's how I'm going to treat it, and that's how I would prefer that you treat it also. Thanks.
I have some things I'd like to share.
Great.
For me, what's been really alive is truth being very multiple, and there being so many truths and so many realities that are all layered on top of one another. And so for me, being able to be in uncertainty has been really helpful, to stay in a center and to be able to take in information and be like, these are all coexisting, and exploring what feels useful to me to have a purposeful and meaningful existence. And something else that is feeling alive is a sense that recognizing interconnectedness is kind of embracing uncertainty. And when I'm on my own, if I perceive myself to be separate, that's like I perceive control. Like I can just manage what I have right here, which maybe it isn't true, but it helps me feel safer. Like if I can just manage what's happening right here with me, and also I miss out on being connected to everything and allowing, I can't ever not be connected to everything, but there's so much of that flow and of life and of enjoyment and service that comes for me when I recognize, wow, like we are all interconnected, and with that comes a lot of uncertainty. And so there's something inside of me that feels, something inside of me that grows when I am able to say, I don't know. And what I know is that I'm here right now doing my best to show up with a heart that's open.
Thanks for sharing, Q. Something I wanted to talk about relating to truth is, I think I've always had a hard time with the concept of truth, because the concept of like a capital T truth and then smaller t truths, it felt to me that and it feels to me that there is no capital T truth, and everybody is seeing their own version of truth. But the problem with that dynamic for me is I have a hard time then, in, let's say, an argument with a friend or something like that, I have a hard time sticking by my own truth, and I find myself therefore just agreeing with other people's truth because I know that that's their truth. And over time, I've gotten the comment like, why don't you speak up about things, or why don't you argue against something? And to me, it's because that's their truth. Who am I to object to it? So I think that's been conflicting for me, because to function properly in the society, sometimes you need to stick by your own truth, even if you don't know it's true 100%. But I just never know where the line is and how to go about it.
Yeah, thanks. So like right now, if I disagreed with you, I could say, I disagree with you. Do you mind if I give you some feedback?
Go for it.
I don't really disagree with you, but I'm just saying that that's always an option. So I just want to plant that seed. If somebody says something that wants to be challenged, you know, that's one of the options.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ask if they want feedback, actually.
Just riffing on what Amy said, kind of building on top of it, an idea that comes up for me when she talks about that is that you could maybe say that anything that you perceive to be a truth, a capital T truth, is maybe like an uncategorized perception, and then it's yet to be categorized as my belief, your belief, this perception, that perception, an objective law, something else. But kind of it starts off as a truth, and then you can kind of further categorize it once you understand it better.
I like that idea. It's like somewhere in between a capital T truth and a lower T truth, and you're just making your way there, I guess. Not sure about it.
Since you brought it up, maybe you could articulate a little bit more precisely, what is the difference between a capital T truth and a lower T truth, just so that we kind of have it in clear terms.
Yes, please.
Yeah, for me personally, I think when I say capital T truth, I think of a concept or a thing that everybody experiences in the same way. Or actually the way I think of it is, if you guys have heard of the elephant story, there's a story of an elephant and lots of blind men, and they all, maybe they were women too actually, and they all came up to the elephant to touch it, and everyone felt something different. Like someone felt the trunk, someone felt the tail, and they all had a different perception.
Right. Yeah.
The capital T truth would be the entirety and whole of the elephant. But then for myself, sometimes I feel like I will, as a human being, I will always be blind. So who am I to say that this is a tail? And my friend sometimes might be like, nope, this is just an ear. And I have a hard time then like fighting back, because I think most people perceive their truth as the capital T truth, to be honest, or lots of people I know. Yeah, and I get into this thing of like, I feel like I should push back, but then I don't think I should, and then I'm stuck.
Okay, cool. So does everybody know what maybe we can just get a show of hands. Does anybody not know the story of the elephant that she's talking about? Just so we can see if, okay, cool. So basically it's this, do you want to tell it, or do you want me to tell it?
You could go ahead.
Okay, cool. Jerome actually shared a picture if you want to see in the chat there. But basically, if there are, in this picture, there's 6 different people who are feeling an elephant in the dark. And so one person feels the elephant and they say, whatever we're feeling feels like a rope. Another person feels it and says, whatever we're feeling feels like a tree. And another person feels it and says, whatever we're feeling feels like a fan. And so they're all right, because they're touching different aspects, because they're perceiving the truth from different perspectives. And so this creates confusion, because they all disagree about what the truth is, but at the end of the day, they're all right at the same time. And so this same concept could be applied to, like, I don't know if you all speak this language, but like in spirituality, there's third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension. And so all of these are true in the different dimensions of reality, and at the same time, saying something that's true in the third dimension is not going to be true in the fifth dimension. And so depending on which lens you're looking through, the same statement could be true or false. So this is like one of the big things that causes people to be confused about how to talk about the truth. One seed I would like to plant in that arena is that I just got a blank in my mind there. Oh yeah, there's this term, speaking unarguably. So if I say, for example, I'm feeling cold, this really can't be argued with because this is about my own experience. So speaking unarguably makes for a much smoother conversation. Speaking unarguably makes for a much more, a safer conversation that can go deeper because we're not debating about facts, right? We're not debating about like, well, I heard this happen, and I heard this happen, and I heard this happen. Because hearsay is not about our personal experience. And I feel so-and-so creates possibility for relating, because it's unarguable, it creates possibility for other people's truths to be received. And, you know, most of our trauma is about not being seen and heard, not being received, not being acknowledged deeply. And so if we're speaking in a way that makes space for people to be acknowledged and seen, then it heals trauma, which moves the energy in the direction of truth. Oh, we have Peter arriving here. That's great. So I just wanted to share that piece and see what else comes next.
I'll share a little bit. Oh.
Go on, Katie, you go.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just share a quick image that kind of came up. Hi, Peter. That it's almost like treating our bodies and ourselves like that, going back to that idea of you are real, and trusting that our bodies are like these antennas for truth. And even, you know, once they become something that you could write about in a book, it's been distorted already from that original source of truth. And is my audio a little weird? Is it fine? Okay, cool. I kept feeling like I was pausing, but that's kind of what kept coming up. It's like, maybe the capital T truth is that those sensations that we experience, and like they are unarguable because they're our perception of reality. But then as soon as we make meaning and put meaning onto those feelings, then it's already becoming a little bit distorted, and it becomes just part of the elephant as opposed to the whole elephant. So like, we all know the experience of when we know something is true beyond a shadow of a doubt. You just have a gut feeling and you're like, this is what's right. But then as soon as you try to put words onto it and make meaning out of it, it becomes a bit distorted from what it was originally. And you're like, wait, why can't I get back there? And it's because it's like this elusive experience. And so the more we can understand that and not be attached to the truth, or not be attached to the truth being a certain thing, but just trusting that we'll know what is true in this moment and in future moments based on this antenna of truth that we are, I think that is what puts us in touch with reality. Because there's a lot of pressure in our global climate right now to pick a side or to pick a perspective that you really stand behind. But really the safest thing to stand behind is your own self-trust, and like making sure that this channel is clear so that you can feel when you're moving in the direction of truth and when you're moving in the direction of contraction and distortion.
Yeah, that's really well said. Thank you. I want to kind of demonstrate, just inspired me to demonstrate what I'm talking about when I say the truth is beyond language, right? So I'll share with you, I'll say I trust myself in a couple different ways, and you can tell me, or you can just experience what feels true. You know, I can be like, well, you know, I trust myself, right? Does that feel true? Or Katie says no. Or I trust myself. right? And that didn't really, Katie didn't buy that one either. but the intensity, or the to the degree that we believe ourselves, is where the actual truth of ourselves gets integrated into what we're saying. So somebody could be speaking gibberish and it can come out as true, and somebody could be speaking in, it could be reading from the encyclopedia and it could come out as false, right? Because depending on how we're experiencing, which lens we're looking through, it's either a mask or it's really us.
Yeah. Hey everyone.
Hey Helma.
Thank you for the topic and everything that you guys have said so far. So so when we talk about truth, I can't but to think about the concepts of duality and non-duality, and then to connect to what Joshua was saying, that there is a part of us that is in duality, and that part of us is the personality construct. Like, that's the part of us that relates to duality and being in duality. And then there's a part of us which is the absolute, or which is the divine spark of existence, which is flowing through this body, and that part of us is living in a different state, a non-dual state. So when you're in your personality construct and you're talking about truth, then it's very easy to say that truth is always beyond words, or truth is always beyond something. It's because it is, because you're not in the absoluteness of your being. Like, you haven't shed the personality construct when you're there. So, and therefore the non-dual nature of our reality is not apparent for a person who then is in the personality construct. Like, the personality construct has in the brain like a constant machine trying to stamp everything, like with like maybe one-liners or one word, so that the personality construct knows what this is, so that this thing that has been stamped then can put down into a box and be categorized. And in that way, we live in our brain. Like, this is the society of the, glorified brain. Like, and and through this, we think that we know something, but in reality is not, or like when you're looking on the outside of it and looking on it from another perspective, then the fractured reality where everything has a different expression and so on and so forth, it just becomes one. It just becomes one direction. Everything happened because something else happened before it, and everything that's going to happen after it just happened because this happened. So it's just like a train just going like chook chook, down the tracks. So and that's so when looking at a life through a non-dual
can we just see if anybody has any questions about that before you continue? Because what you said was like really well articulated, and that's already a lot. So I just want to see if anybody has any questions before you continue.
Of course.
I had a quick question regarding personality construct. Like, the way that we categorize things and have it make sense for our brains, should we then try to shed the personality construct, or should we try to get to a balance? Like, is the goal to get rid of it completely?
Well, it totally depends on like where your soul is in the process of incarnations, like what you're doing. Like, are you building up more personality construct? Because the personality construct is something that we take with us, lifetime after lifetime. We take like energetic expressions of something that we had been before, and we may, and we have it maybe in this life, and we don't know why. We might feel very royal when you're not when you're not a royal or something like this, then we take like energetic expressions that we've had in other lifetimes and we take them into this one. So are you on an upward, are you going up the mountain or are you going down the mountain when it comes to this? Like, where are you in the curve of creating this thing, like the personality construct? So
I would imagine that answer is really hard for people to digest.
Okay.
like in a sort of actionable way, like what would be a way that people can look at the personality?
If you feel that it's a calling in your life, that you need to unravel the personality construct in such a way that you see through it and you enlighten it and it doesn't have effect anymore in you or your experience, then yes, then that's what you need to do. If not, then no, then you're doing something else.
Great. So what that means basically is, like, do you feel like curious and interested in unraveling your identity? Do you feel drawn toward discovering what is true about your soul? Because if you do feel drawn that way, then that's a natural calling. Like, that's the direction that life is asking you to go.
Okay, thanks.
I have something to add here. So there's a stage of healing work where it's actually really important to build up the sense of self, or the egoic structure, to hold further levels of spiritual advancement. And sometimes if you don't develop the personality to a level where you have a solid sense of identity and where I am and my continuity of being, then things can get really unstable when you start opening up the higher chakras. So it's really important to do both at the same time, but ideally, depending on where you are in your healing journey, to really develop the solid underlying structure of self first, like personal self. Does that make sense?
Great, yeah. And the way that I usually interpret this is, thank you, Chanel. That's a really important piece. I like to say, and I'm curious what Hilmar's perspective is on this, but individuation, in my perception, individuation is best to be accomplished before awakening, because once we know that we have once we know that we can trust ourselves, then we can dissolve that. But if we don't yet know that we can trust ourselves, and then we dissolve ourselves, then we can walk around feeling like nothing matters. We can walk around feeling like spacey and like, well, everything is all one, so you can just punch me in the face. And if we have, like, if we develop boundaries first, right? Individuation is boundaries. If we develop clear sense of boundaries and preferences, and then we awaken out of that, we still have the ability to set boundaries. But if we attempt to awaken before that, then creating individuation and boundaries and preferences after awakening tends to be much harder and tends to be more confusing, because it's like, why would I set a boundary between me and myself? Right? It's like, why would I, if this person is punching me in the face and that's also me, why would I stop them? And so it can be much more confusing to go in the other order, if that makes sense. So that's a really good addition, Shannon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I invite you to share, like, what you're feeling, what's coming up for you around any of this stuff.
It's interesting what you're saying, about the self and truth and everything, because I think once you step outside the identity of yourself, you realize that in other realms you are still the same person. Like, I'm still Jason, you're still Joshua. When you become the spirit of being a multi-dimensional being, you can start to apply that to your life and see, what your truth is. Maybe this isn't, what we're living in isn't as linear, as what you think it would be, you know. So when you sort of unravel that and you start to look at other people's lives, you know, it becomes interesting to see what levels, a bit like what Himmler was saying, you know, with being royal or something like that, what levels of existence people are actually traveling on. And then, you know, becoming that sort of enlightened person where you can sit back and look at, what do I believe is true, you know. You know, taking these journeys into deeper realms, and then coming back and then having to live a normal life, you know, go to a normal job and, you know, interact with people. And I think along the journey it becomes very level, where you get to, in your own personal journey, you know, to find a sort of common ground to piece all those realities together. You know, what you was talking about earlier with dimensions, going right up into the 9th dimension and then coming back to Earth and being like, wow, so I'm a spirit with cells that can transport all over the universe and be in different lives and in states of hypnosis where I could be a merman or something else, or a blue avian bird, and all these cells are existing in sort of a conglomerate of universal soup, you know, of existence, you know, and then bringing that to the table of, you know, whatever level of awakening people are on, you know. So it gets interesting, doesn't it, when we're talking about truth, because, you know, I think my truth is now that we are spirits, that we are multi-dimensional beings, and in modern society it seems to be like we're bombarded with all these things of mistruths, media and things that are going on in our reality, which is kind of diverting our attention to other things like fear and anxiety and things like that. So, you know, I think in an awakening it's whatever level you get to yourself, and then you, like I say, you can sit back and observe and see those journeys unfold in front of you. You know, everybody's own personal thing. So I'll let you take over anyway. I just wanted to share that with the group.
Oh, that was great. That was really a great addition. Yeah, thank you. So before we continue, I just want to check in. What are you feeling? Like I feel. I don't know if it's just me or if somebody has some fear about something, but this can be a really scary topic, because it's like, I'm here to deconstruct my personality. Like, WTF? Like, is that safe? Am I gonna, is this okay? So I feel.
Hi, can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. Yes. This is so on point for me. Since I started to experience the lucidity of solid matter, it made me question so much more of what I've known. So then I was looking into how our brains fire, along with our heart energy. And then this is where I've came up against my wall, because if I know that everything is from our creation, we're all part of one, creating these multiple experiences on multiple levels, then the reality I'm seeing is obviously not what I want to see. We can see that in the world, and I'm seeing that with myself and with lots and lots of people around me in their own personal relationships, as well as a planetary issue that we have at the moment, that we're seeing dark, heavy reflections, and I'm aware that has to come up to clear. And when Laf was saying, I should excuse my pronunciation, sometimes I get a bit tongue-tied, was saying about our perception of reality, I think that is how I've kind of come to this stuck energy. I've looked and learnt and meditated and sat so much with all this new information that's been flowing through me, that now my truth, whether it's a big T or a little t, is that where is that sitting now? And the more I question that, the more I'm feeling resistance. and stuckness. And anybody would like to give me feedback, then that'd be awesome.
This is a wonderful. This is really helpful. I really like that you shared that, because it connects the really challenging parts of what our mind needs to understand, right? Is like that the universe, our physical reality is not as physical as it seems. And then it comes back to the emotional experience of that, which is like, oh shit, like, what do I do with this information? You know, now that I have to be a person in this new understanding.
Totally.
Yeah, I want to just thank Joshua for really bringing up that question of what are we feeling right now? And I think that it's really important to keep directing back to what am I feeling right now in this moment? Because I guess what I'd like to expand on is ultimately going back to something about what Katie said about trusting yourself to like be that channel for intuition, or trusting the unfolding of where your truth is taking you. To have that discernment between, is this my truth, my intuition coming from my higher guidance, versus something else, some pattern, some wounding, some block, such as like trying to please or look a certain way, or whatever it is for you. That's why it's really important to come back to nervous system regulation. And so I want to just keep bringing up that topic of how do we feel safe with ourselves, and really starting from there. So, because ultimately that's how we know what's real for us, is like when we are in that state of safety with ourselves, then we can trust that we're being pointed in the direction of real or truth.
Does anybody have any questions of what Chanel just said? Because this is really important. Everybody understands.
I'm curious to understand more about the kind of tuning into the nervous system, or what's that relationship with the nervous system part?
Yeah, cool. Chanel, I can take that, or if you want to take it.
Maybe Chanel, if you're able to.
Yeah, it's like, well, we incur certain blockages or wounds or traumas throughout our lives, and also genetic imprints. And so we're in a process where we can't, until we heal those things and come to a place of safety with self, or a regulated nervous system, which means stability, groundedness, being in your body, trusting what you feel, trusting yourself. So yeah, until we get to that level of stability, we can't fully trust that our actions are being guided from truth. So
That feels like a really big thing.
It's huge.
Like being in a secure place.
Yeah.
Is that similar to what you guys were talking about earlier, about making sure you develop your boundaries first before you deconstruct the personality construct?
Yeah, because if you don't feel safe, it's because you don't have enough boundaries, right? It's because if you feel that your boundaries are going to be permeated, then your inner animal, right, is going to feel like it's susceptible to violation. And then if you feel that susceptibility, there's no way you're going to be able to allow yourself to perceive multiple dimensions of reality, because you're constantly in this fight or flight, survival system, which is the nervous system, right? So one of the most important principles that helps me is fear is the fear of fear. So we're afraid of our own fear. We're afraid of like, oh shit, my animal is freaking out and I'm afraid of that. And so we avoid our emotions. We avoid the discomfort of like, oh, my body wants to go through a process, but my mind says that's too scary, that sucks, right? So we're literally afraid of our own nervous systems. We're afraid of the unraveling of our nervous system as if it's dangerous, which is actually backward, right? So the actual dangerous thing is resisting the process our body wants to go through. And that's why I say, I've said this before, a trigger is an orgasm we're unwilling to experience. It's a natural unfolding process, but we're so afraid of it that we think it's a problem, and it's not.
Yeah. So, is it okay I jump in here?
Let's make sure Amy's
Sure.
clear on that so far.
Yep. Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, cool. And if you want to plant another question there, when Helmar talks, he can include any other questions if you want to ask something. Okay, yeah, Helmar, what's up?
Thank you. Yeah. So this question of trusting yourself in your movements while going through life and deconstructing your personality construct. So I wanna turn it on its head, like the question: would you trust a life with your personality construct? When you really understand the nature of how the personality construct fractalizes and shatters and loses itself more and more, then would you trust a life without that being audited or, like, let's say, observed as well as possible? So for me, the question became, no, I don't have to trust myself like fully in my movements. For me, the what it became was that what I trusted was my observations of my reality. So, and everything is real while I go through it, and that epiphany was a huge thing for me. Like when I understood that all things, everything that I experienced, no matter what it is, be it a dream, if I thought I heard someone say something and they didn't, it was still real for me, right? You see. So all of these things that I sense are all my reality. They're all real for me. And when I started to move from that point, then that changed. That was a game changer. So, and when it comes to the higher self or the soul level, I found out very much that there is a personality in there. Like there is a being, or let's say a certain expression of a being which is there, and it's like a divine personality construct that has, of course, boundaries, but setting those boundaries isn't necessarily needed, because there's an inner knowing. Or sometimes when then setting the boundary would be a something to do to teach to others, or something to do to then how to direct it in terms of what's going on in a certain situation, and there you would put a boundary. But so if there is a question of trust, then it is in my moving from the fractalized ever shattering personality construct to my higher self, and that's in the movement itself, just to be in taking off the layers, that trusting the movement pretty much. So it's like, so I find myself to be more and more like a force of nature than anything which is too nuanced, and so in the absoluteness, or in the non-dual state of watching life, then it's really hard to then all of a sudden start to think in terms of this fractalized personality construct that used to be here. So, but to see life from a level of this one wholeness, this one thing that's just moving in the same direction, like and then it's like being everything and being nothing at the same time. Like it's and the personality construct is kind of like a story that I told myself, and I don't remember it that well anymore. So that's how it kind of becomes. So so truth is to be found when you're not in the personality construct in the same way. And yeah. And for me, I don't have a perfect standing in this at all. But I'm still learning to, let's say, have a stronger ballast in this level of consciousness, and it takes time, and it takes direction and a continuity, like that you don't stop. So yeah, that was it, I guess.
Thank you. I suspect that before we change topics, that there might be some questions about that, because yeah, I love the way you plant these seeds, because then we can unravel that, you know, for a few minutes afterward. So I'll just share that my way of experiencing what Hilmar is talking about here is through body tension, body pain. And so when I have chronic tension, chronic pain in my body, this is I'm aware that this is a distorted lens that my energy is running through, which creates an attachment and identification to how I am perceiving reality. And so while I'm living my life, I need to be aware that I'm perceiving through a distorted lens, so that I can kind of put the pieces back together as it lands in my cognition, and I can say to myself, you know, I'm perceiving that person as an enemy, and I know I'm looking through a distorted lens, so I need to kind of consolidate what is actually true on the other side of that distortion, right? And so this is, you know, basically he asked a great question: would you want your personality structure to make your decisions for you, or are you willing to actually notice the distortions and recenter your cognition around a more neutral truth, a more holistic understanding, inclusive of your distortions? So it's not making your distortions wrong, it's just making them, it's just creating awareness around them. And I want to give space if anybody has anything to say about that, but then if not, I want to pivot the topic a little bit.
I just want to say, just in reflecting on what Chanel was sharing, and also Hilmar and Joshua, that well, wait, now I want to go back to make sure that I'm like properly representing what Chanel was saying, but that basically we need to be in a sense of safety or security in order to be able to detect what is true. And I will say, I want to kind of just like offer that perhaps we don't need to be in that state of like absolute safety and security, because just having the awareness that we do not feel safe and secure is actually the nudge towards truth, and the nudge towards seeing past that, that lens or perception that's telling us we're not safe. So something that I've been experiencing a lot in the past week with Evan here is like feeling like one way that I like to grow, or that I like to experience truth, is by putting myself into situations where perhaps I don't feel safe all the time, but I know that I'm safe. So putting myself into a new situation might make me feel unsafe or insecure or not completely in my integrity, for instance. But then being there and having the commitment to unraveling everything that's telling me that I'm not safe helps me to kind of recalibrate and step into more of my truth, which I think might be, it's just one, I guess it's one way to unravel and dissolve the stuck energy in the nervous system, or the, the trauma or the tension that Josh was talking about. Yeah, and I'm not advocating for like putting yourself into actual very unsafe conditions, but like stepping outside of my comfort zone or putting myself into a situation that feels challenging, and also holding myself to the my soul's standards in those situations, inevitably creates transformation in myself and possibly those around me as well. When I'm committed to, honoring the truth of my soul, no matter where I am, it just creates a pathway, a direct path to evolving. And that's all I want to say.
And I want to add on to what Katie just said, and say that I just want to offer that intimacy and allowing yourself to be seen by others is often a really profound doorway into this, because it's sometimes like it's a safe situation that can feel unsafe and that can trigger something, and yet there's like some level of trust in the holding of that it actually is safe. And it's sort of, I don't know if I'm articulating that well, but it's kind of a paradox. And like I would take this group as an example, such as like it might feel unsafe in moments for me to reveal to you what is really going on in my body, for example, as I'm listening, and it could feel really vulnerable, and yet revealing that could be the very doorway into deconstructing whatever that pattern is that was leading to that shame or that hiding or that self-judgment or whatever. And it can transform that energy just by revealing something that feels risky in a safe environment.
Really, really enjoying what Katie and Chanel are sharing. And yeah, I guess a few different things are coming up. I'll try and keep it brief, but I guess this idea of the things we're unlearning are the things that we had to learn in the first place. Like these untruths that I come up against, that if I have to let go of them, it feels like my ego doesn't feel safe, or the part of me that's identified with the personality construct doesn't feel safe because it's my truth right now is that like my brain has just gone blank. I had this do
you want to talk about what you're feeling instead?
Just take a few breaths and take your time. Deeply uncomfortable. A lot of fear and really intense sensation in my chest.
Do you want to share what you're afraid of? Knowing that we'll hold you no matter what the answer is.
Yeah, I guess I feel that I'm experiencing exactly what we're talking about right now in this moment. And the last few days, there's been a lot of experiences of unraveling of identities and patterns. I'm not sure I feel safe. No, I'm not sure I can speak right now.
Okay, well take your time, and no pressure.
Can I just interject here? I mean, like, is it Abigail watching try to speak then?
Well,
it's
why don't we give her a chance to let her nervous system do what it needs to do?
That's fine. I think at the minute we're in a group of people And what I seem to believe when we're talking about truth is that we're all sort of traveling through we're all tourist fields that traveling through time and space, and we're on Earth, and we get into a group like this and all the energies are all over the place, you know, and some people have done some work, some people have looked at the shadow. So it's, you know, even when I've tried to talk in this group, it's very difficult. I feel very emotional, and I've talked in big groups of people before and opened up, but there seems to be people in this group that have a lot of power for bringing things out of people. And I think when Abigail first tried to talk and speak her truth, this overwhelmed her. And that's why I just said, you know, to take a few breaths, and because I feel it myself.
Well, do you want to share more about what you're feeling?
Yeah, I feel like a high energy, but a nervousness. Yeah. You know,
so what do you think the fear is?
Oh, I don't know. I want to talk in this group, but then in some ways I don't want to reveal things about myself. You know, maybe some of the experiences that I've had, maybe my vulnerabilities to do with these experiences, losing the self, becoming spirit.
So would you say do you have a fear of us rejecting you somehow? Is that accurate?
No, I'm pretty open, but you know, seeing when people try to talk, there seems to be some kind of restriction, you know, because now you've created a group of people who are traveling in a tourist field. And what I've always believed is when we're in these tourist fields and we meet each other personally, like this is like a virtual thing online, your field reads my field and they interact. And then when you go off in your direction, your field leaves and I go back to my present, to my reality. But in these groups, I think energies fly around, and that's what I've found, and sometimes it restricts the way that you can sort of communicate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, because when the nervous system starts...
I'll mute it, so...
Okay. When the nervous system starts to lock up, it's like our brain spins out and it's like, who am I? What do I do? So let's just all take a moment and be with the breath here for a moment and feel, what is my body, what sensations are coming up in my body right now? Right, we have several people who have shared about the pressure in their nervous systems, and we might be thinking thoughts about, I have nothing to add to this conversation. Maybe I feel useless. I feel like this is too much for me. Maybe I feel overwhelmed. What thoughts are true for you right now? And notice that, right? Just bring awareness to what is your inner experience right now. I'll share for myself. I'm feeling the pressure. I felt it building up in my stomach the whole time, and so I still feel it now. I feel the temptation to avoid it. I feel the temptation to say smart stuff. I feel the temptation to do something to put some kind of acceptance around me, right, to be accepted by the group. So what is the fear in our nervous systems trying to save us from, right? Just being aware of what is the perceived danger in this intensity. And like I said at the beginning, the group is about creating intensity, creating depth, and recognizing when the intensity occurs, and it's occurring right now. Yeah.
Thank you. So the intensity is about the storytelling that the personality structure has to tell itself in order to survive. I'm like this and this. I'm like so and so. And this is something that bounces off of all of you, and it bounces off of everything I look at. It bounces off of every color I see and whatever car I see drive by me. You know, this feeling of having to tell myself the story of myself in order to survive. It's the personality construct's way of keeping itself alive in the body. It's like a energetic lock, if you like to call it that. So
yeah.
So when something comes in and disrupts or kind of, let's say, affects this storytelling, like in such a way that there is a light, or there is a presence, or there is a power, a energy, or let's say a direction of something, and if that thing is so, let's say, solid or strong or powerful, then what we are looking at is the demise of our whole existence, like, or let's say the whole existence of the personality construction, right? You know, because, you know, and that's what it is. I always come back to this point again and again and again, and I love this so deeply, and that is that when you deal with the true spiritual light, all structures fade. No structure survives in the true spiritual light, you see. And that's what happens when we talk about topics like this. And I want to say one more thing, and that is that in my observations of, you know, I've taken these different words like love and light and truth and so on. And what I see is that these, as you know, these three words, what they express, truth and light and love, they are the same thing. You see, they are exactly the same thing. Like, you know, truth is love and light, light is truth and love, love is light and truth. Like, it's like you know, it's so so awesome. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hilmar. May I jump in?
Yeah, of course.
I really loved what you said, Hilmar, right at the beginning. You said that intensity, that energetic lock, is the storytelling our personality structure is saying. It's the story our personality structure is saying in order to survive. And I wanted to share that in my experience, when I have that tension arise, that energetic lock, that I need to say something, I need to share, I need to contribute, my antidote to that is to surrender to a place of service. And it's no longer, what can I do to contribute? It's more, how can I be present, and how can I be here to respond to whatever need comes forth? And there's a tremendous relief in that. It's like, then in that moment of surrender towards like service and what will be most helpful to those around me or whatever comes up, that energetic lock, that kind of tension and that fear totally dissolves. It's a wonderful antidote for me. And I'd love to hear other people's experience about that. And also, just to loop it back, Sarah, I'm Sarah too, hello. You, a while ago, had asked for feedback around the stuck kind of feeling that you had. And that's kind of what came forth for me, is like, I'm able to move through stuckness by kind of letting go and being like, I don't need to make a decision here. I don't need to do something. I can just respond to and be of service to whatever needs come forth. And I'm committed to looking for that.
Thank you, Sarah.
I love that orientation, Sarah. I just want to appreciate you so much for bringing that up. And I would also add that it's listening to what needs arise from ourselves as well. So being in service of listening to what do I need at this moment, and then expressing that or finding the right outlet for that to be met. So being in that openness of surrendering to receiving your own needs arising out of your physical experience.
Yeah, I'd like to share the first thing that Sarah Clark said about when you feel the tension arise to do or be a certain way, and then thinking how you can be in service instead. That's a practice that I have started doing recently as well, framing it as when I feel like an old mask or an old conditioning coming up for me, because I feel like I have to do something or and I'm not able to do it. If I can focus not on what's coming in at me and what's attacking me, and connect with the love and light that I feel within me and how that can just be blasted out, and in that way be of service and just see everything in a relaxed way with love, then what I'm meant to do in that moment for me and the situation just naturally emerges. So yeah, what you shared, Sarah, really resonated with that kind of feeling that I can create. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, both of you, all three of you. Yeah, I really relate to that as well. And I wanted to make the distinction between letting something go and suppressing it. Like just that energetic difference between I need to say something or do something. And like so often, the way that we talk to ourselves about that feeling that we're having really dictates where that energy flows. And so it is transmuting it into service and love is a way that we actually get to move the energy. But if we suppress it and say, oh, it's fine, I'll just push it down, I'm okay, that's where it gets stuck, and it's the opposite of movement. So I really wanted to appreciate that. Keeping that energy moving, it's all a gift, it's all meant to be there. Even the feeling of resistance or the feeling of something's not right here, following that and allowing it to keep moving is what saves us from the stagnation that creates trauma and creates stuckness. So it's and reassuring ourselves that there's no real wrong way to do it, and it's just moving through it. For instance, saying the thing that you think, like Chanel said earlier, perhaps just sharing that I'm afraid to share in the group is a way to move past the stuckness. That's absolutely 100% true, not just here, but anywhere in your life. Speaking to the thing that feels like it can't be said automatically dissolves the thing, or puts you on a path towards dissolving it and getting closer to truth. Thank you.
Guys, just one sec. I've just got an emergency. I've just got to drop out.
Okay, brother. Thank you.
Someone needs a number. It's just my sister.
Okay, you're gonna come back.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Another way to say what Katie was saying there is if we can the way I usually term it is we're riding with an RID, we're riding the wave of the present moment, right? So if we keep talking about what is happening in the present moment, then we're not going to get stuck in the past or the future. So if we keep talking about it as it unfolds, here's what I'm feeling now, here's what is blossoming forth now, then it's not going to get repressed because it's getting acknowledged as we are moving forward energetically. And this is the opposite of separation, right? This is the opposite of suppression. This is also we talked about the big T truth and the little T truth. This is also the big I and the little I, right? My big self and my little self, right? So the little self wants to keep analyzing and keep making points and future, past, this, that, factoids. And the big self is the emotion. The big self is like I am alive, like things are happening, my body is moving, right? This is the animal power that is powering our brain. So the brain is not going to really work if we don't acknowledge the primal force that is under all of it. Cute.
So I've been suppressing something and I feel like a shell around my body, and I feel a little shaky, and I feel like my heart is like, ugh. And so after I shared at the very beginning, and after I was done, and then Amy started to share, I had this feeling of like, what happened? Like this need to be heard, this need to have what I shared, like be part of the discussion or something, and just kind of feeling like, yeah, what happened was, and then my own fears of, was I relevant? Did it make sense? And going back and kind of having these two processes of trying to like be present with the group, and also like this managing or like trying to understand what I, looking back on what I said, and desperately trying to find a way that it like connected so that I could feel connected or like relevant to what the discussion was. And so I was suppressing that, and I wasn't fully present. And I was doing what Katie, as you said, like just being like, oh, like it's okay, I'm gonna kind of like manage it on my own. And I'm really noticing in my life like how much I'm secretive, how much I don't share, because it feels really scary to do that. It feels more, I feel like it's a preference to like hide and be able to feel a sense of control over how other people see me than to actually share what's happening and surrender to whatever happens after that from my truth. And so I'm really trying to not do that. And so here I am.
Thank you. How is this feeling now? I'm so grateful for your sharing this right now.
I feel like the shell is not there, and my heart feels a lot open, and it feels scary still, but I feel a lot better being mushy than hard.
Yeah. And can you feel how much we love you and how much this is helping all of us? Sarah, you can jump in if you want to.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say, Q, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I wanted to also acknowledge that I was so impressed that you were the first person to jump in after Joshua's introduction. Because in all of our time together, I've noticed that you usually chime in later on. And so when you jumped in, I just want to honor that. Like I noticed that you spoke up and it was beautiful. And I also wrote down what you said so you can feel validated. I thought you had such a great point. You said recognizing interconnectedness is about embracing uncertainty. And knowing that we are all interconnected, with that comes a lot of uncertainty. And that was so helpful and so wise. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, and also just personally, we can let Peter go next, but I just wanted to acknowledge you, Q, for the way that you've been sharing with me personally behind the scenes is really, I really love you. I just really think that it's just wonderful and courageous, the things that you're exploring, and I feel really honored that you're willing to share with me about what's happening for you personally.
Thank you, Joshua. I feel really grateful to share with you. And it feels like wonderful, new, scary territory to be sharing with greater fullness and vulnerability. This is an amazing space to be doing that.
Yeah, likewise, and you're making the space too, right? This is you are the space at the moment for all of us.
I drew a picture that I want to share. Maybe you can see it.
Nice.
It may be backwards, or maybe that's just for me.
No,
it's like a circle,
Yeah,
and
it's not backwards.
it's safe, and then it says feeling unsafe
Oh, cool.
inside,
Okay.
and then
Inside the
it's a
same-
transformation party.
Wow, I love it. Thank you. Cool. Peter, what's up?
I just wanted to apologize for jumping in like too quickly after you spoke. I think I personally didn't understand what you were saying. And like, I don't think that's on you. I think it's just, I'm not at a point where I can understand it yet. And then I had all these questions, so I sort of just rushed in. So I just wanted to apologize for making you feel that way. I didn't realize I did that. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I didn't feel like you intended any harm.
Yeah, I feel the same. Peter, did you want to share something? Or Abby, if you're, whoever's ready.
I just wanted to say that the energy that was mentioned a few minutes ago, I feel the same. And it's right here around my stomach, and it's not the first time I feel that in this group. So I felt that with the heart transmission. I felt it before, and it's also something. It's beautiful how this is unfolding. I think of sharing something, and then something is shared as exactly what I want to share. So, and like 15 minutes ago, I felt, well, where's the heart here in the discussion? And then the heart came, and it's so beautiful. There's only one thing I would like to share, is what was a thought that came up, but I really like for you to reflect on that, if that is true. For me, if I look at duality in life, and sometimes you are in spirit, you are in soul, and you can look at it from that point of view. But if that is not possible, the only place I can run to is my heart, because that is the least in duality of all my energies. And if I'm in my heart, I know I have courage. You know, I know what to do. I know that this is the right thing to do. Even though it's still in duality, I know what to do. And it is somehow connected with that soul in a very deep sense. So that is how I perceive to be alive. If I'm not in that perspective of the soul, I can always use my heart. And also that's something that Sarah said, I think, you become an instrument of you get yourself out of the way and let your heart speak, and that is directly connected to the soul, to your higher self. So yeah.
Awesome, Peter. Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
Thanks from me as well. I really appreciate that.
Abby, did you want to say something?
I'd love to just presence a bit. Yeah. Yeah, I guess my insecurity around sharing is related to a few things. The first is, I guess, how deeply everything that is shared has been resonating, and this feeling of there being a huge amount of pain or a sensation that I'm labeling as pain in my body, that is growth waiting to happen, growth waiting for me to go towards. And I guess what I was feeling, or what I was missing, or what was having me feeling uncomfortable or mute, like if I'm mute, it's a really bad sign, like I'm the most extroverted, loud person, is like the grounding of this in a real experience. And I think what has me feel unsafe sometimes is like speaking in conceptual or theoretical terms, when for me it's like this visceral human experience of going through the death of these personality construct, and it hurts like fuck. And for me, I experienced it as like fighting and struggling, like my mind is just fighting itself because my soul's trying to evolve, and it's this uncomfortable, disorienting, like humility making process. And it's happening a lot to me at the moment as I'm in kind of recovery, and as I'm kind of peeling back the layers of identities and personality that were woven up, that were causing me to act out in an eating disorder. And it's so deeply disorienting. And it's like the moments where I'm actually going through that death of some part of me, some part of me that has been constructed, something that I have learned, because I wouldn't need to unlearn it if I hadn't learned it in the first place. Like I've learned the baseline of a child doesn't believe it has to do anything or say anything or show up in a certain way to get love or acceptance. And I'm now having to unravel all the things I've learned. And yeah, I guess I feel a ton of inferiority that I experience this journey as deeply painful and uncomfortable. And for me, the experience of, like, the rational experience of knowing that nothing real can be destroyed, and you know, like, these parts of me that are dying are not the truth of who I am. Like, I can rationally know that, and it's all very well when I'm feeling like super spiritually connected, but the moments when I'm literally in the pain of like of things welling up is, I guess, when I find it the most difficult to see the truth. It's like when and I've got this metaphor of like a snake shedding its skins, and it's like the snake's just like struggling everywhere, and it's like fighting its skins, and like that's to me what it feels like. And I guess I felt like I wanted to presence that, and I really love that people have brought up the need for like grounding and yeah, like the experience of being able to kind of calm the nervous system, because ego death and death of different parts of our personality construct and death of certain beliefs or behaviors or thought patterns that have acted as a protection, it is painful and disorienting to let them go for that kind of inner child animal part. And I guess I'll stop rambling in a minute, but like that was, I guess, what I wanted to kind of presence. And then I had this this thing from the Course in Miracles, which was coming up for me right at the beginning. The Course can be summed up very simply: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God, which is basically translated as love is real, it's an eternal creation, and nothing can destroy it. Anything that isn't love is an illusion. Remember this and you'll be at peace. And I guess that's, the remembering of that is the kind of is the hard part. I guess I just kind of wanted to presence like how deeply uncomfortable this process can be, and that pain is the growth and is the unfolding and is the shedding of layers.
Totally, yeah, thank you. I would like to respond to a few of those things, which was really beautifully put. So I just love the illustration of like the snake shedding its skin, right? Because we each have our inner adult and we have our inner child, and so it's like the inner child needs to have the shedding happen, and the inner adult needs to allow for the shedding to happen. The inner adult needs to like choose to make the space and to make the decisions like, okay, this is the time to honor the inner child. And so they have to work in sync. And so if the inner adult is actually receiving the like letting the frustration or the process inform the decision making, then it creates these loops of like, well, I'm not allowed to express that. I'm not allowed to shake, right? I'm not allowed to be an animal. I'm not allowed to be messy. I have to be like my socialized, fucking normal person. I have to be like these things. I have to achieve. I have to do this and this and this and this and this to be safe. And at the end of the day, we're still going to have all of that pressure, all of that tension, all of that energy that hasn't been honored or released from the inner child. And so, what Abby was pointing at there is like creating, basically it's a safety, it's a permission system within ourselves so that we're not creating our own bottlenecks unnecessarily. And, we've said all of this, what I'm saying now, we've said it in many different ways throughout this conversation. And the really magical part is like, when we're done with this conversation, we go back out into the world and we're approached with all of these very practical issues that everyone is talking about, be it, a virus or racism or prices or, different kinds of, the police state or conspiracies or whatever it is. Like, if we can, like, all these issues matter as long as we understand our own inner dynamics in that context. Because otherwise, dealing with all these issues and avoiding our inner permission system doesn't help anybody, right? So really prioritizing ourselves is taboo in many different, you know, religions and all this stuff. And really prioritizing our own inner system, you know, can be perceived as satanic or something by some, but this is the foundation of our perception, and we cannot be of service to anybody if we're not honoring our own experience. And that's really, you know, the seeds I really want to plant repeatedly is our own distortions prevent us from being effective. Our own distortions prevent us from being the permission slip other people need in their lives. So, yeah. Thanks for letting me share that. Evan, yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm gonna not look at the screen. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, this is all new for me, and I'm always gonna use that as a defense mechanism to start off like what I'm saying, because I felt like I came into this Zoom like kind of like a divine reason of like, I woke up this morning just like thinking about love, because 5 years ago I found love with somebody, and I wrote them a letter today, and I can't send them that letter. So like love was on my mind, and I was trying to like honor what I needed to do next. And I thought I needed to take like this exercise class, and then Katie sent me this text, and then now I'm in the Truth Dojo, and I don't feel really comfortable being here yet. And I'm like trying to understand why I'm here in this moment. And maybe I figured out that I'm very selfish and I'm not a great listener, but maybe if I share my own experience, that's helpful just in general. So I'm listening, I'm having a hard time connecting, and I'm trying to do like the things that I have to do. And then kind of like when I like just sat back and listened and accepted where I was and understanding what this circle was, I became more open to it and understanding of it. And I needed to go outside for a second to make contact with the person that's letting me stay in their home. And I just gave her a hug and just told her how great it's been to just be able to like listen and just reflect for a second and understand that like the world is a very difficult place to be in right now, but it's nice that there's a space like this in order to hear and be heard. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Evan.
That was really nice. I really liked hearing from you. I really felt your honesty, and I really felt your presence in the beginning, where you were acknowledging that how you felt about the whole thing and how you are connecting to us and such. I really think that there's something here that you would be very enriched by, and I hope that to see you again. So what I was thinking was that so Abigail and Joshua, like the things that you shared, like they got me thinking about like something that I've noticed, my own observation in shedding different parts of the personality structure, and what beliefs will be created by it, by the observation that I then get by having lost parts of the personality structure. Like, and that is that I start to see that the parts of the personality that are left behind, like this is in short, it helps us to move from A to B, and it helps us to receive from the world, and it and kind of helps us to be here somehow. So and when we look at that the personality construct, or that which is left of it, just becomes like a plate. Like when we're eating and then we need a plate and then we get some food on our plate, and that's what becomes like what's left behind of the personality structure, like that something that is able to receive in the world. So and when seeing that, then I noticed that which is left of the personality construct is a vehicle for the light of my soul to be able to move here in the physicality. So it's like that the personality construct, it's created in the beginning. The wholeness of the personality construct is created as a survival mechanism because this place seems harsh. Like that's how it is. And so it arises in a certain way, and then when it collapses, it has to collapse down into its own footprint. And when that happens, the light of the soul is, becomes the let's say like a traveler, like using that which is left of the personality construct to be able to move around here. Does that make sense? Yeah, I hope it made sense. So,
and if it doesn't make sense, we can, take our time with it. Might take some time to make it all make sense. I would like to make space for May to say something.
Hello, hi. So I've just been listening, observing, taking it in, and for me, I think I'm just as a place where I'm trying to figure out what this is, and so trying to figure out, just have a feel for this. And I think throughout this time I can feel vibrations like around my head, like felt quite strongly, especially at the very beginning when Jason mentioned he was also feeling that. At that very moment, I definitely felt a strong field, which is quite cool. It's something I started doing recently. I had a meditation practice, but it hasn't really been super consistent. And about maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I started doing it very consistently, and doing 1 hour a day. And then I also have group sessions with my group. We do like observing consciousness about three or 4 times a week, where we basically just sit together and just observe consciousness. And very similar group setting, but we don't really say much other than we just describe the very reality that's for us, and then we take turns. So I made some association, and I think to myself, I'm trying to figure out what's my relation to words in observing reality and describing it, or do I want to leave it less disturbed or less through my own lens? So that was something I saw like it just going on inside my own head for myself. And I think the other thing I just want to add, or more so like an open question out there, is when it comes to about grounding. I found myself since the lockdown doing lots of grounding work, everything from gardening and lots of art and crafts, some just things you move with your fingers in creation, just like very simple things, and lots of those things that I love doing, like doing coloring books, and I loved doing as a kid. So reconnecting with lots of things I loved doing as kids. And at the same time, as I was doing it, I enjoy it. There's a part of me feeling this calling, feeling like this is the best time, use of my time, because I know lots of people has been called for so like type of leadership. So I think this will come back to the boundary about where does me end and the others start? Where does me just enjoying drawing and painting to, stepping up in some sort of leadership role. I think that's still a boundary that's very blurred for me. I'm still trying to figure out for myself. Thank
That was
you.
beautifully put. Yeah, I feel what you're saying in my body. That's very important. Okay. Yeah, thank you, man. Jerome, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you. And I feel you, May, on expressing and drawing and crafts, and that being a way of exploring yourself. Like that's definitely, I think a lot of people have been doing during this pandemic and being at home and trying to sense make where they are in their heads. So yeah, very, very much aware of that for sure. I just wanted to kind of like throw a little spotlight on the little threads of this conversation that have really inspired me today, and kind of like run through those little bits towards the end. There was some kind of suggestion at the very start around kind of identity not just being about yourself, but also being about your relationships with other people. And actually kind of towards the end of Joshua's kind of intro, I really felt like there was something incomplete about it for me. And that's what the incomplete thing was. Like, yeah, I've been trying to kind of rediscover my identity over the last couple of years. And now that I feel like that's mostly in place, I now feel like what's missing in my life is the right kind of relationships and energies with other people, and that's going to define me, further from this point forwards. And actually, I imagine that in a year from now or something like that, like who I will feel I am, the identity that I will consider myself to be, will be 100% a function of the relationships that I have around me. And that'll be like the outer layer, kind of within which is the me, and I don't know what else is kind of beneath that. But yeah, for me, the relationships are super, super important to my identity. And then Katie said something that triggered me, not in a bad way, but when she said something like kind of keeping that channel clear. And what I realized for myself was that, and this is kind of similar to what Sarah was saying, but in my case, I was kind of using it more as a defense mechanism, where I realized that my safe space is to be very much present with the other person, to kind of be like in tune with them and where they are and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And because they're kind of almost like we're playing in their side of the court kind of a thing, it becomes really safe for me. Like I've realized that that's kind of been my place where I've operated for a long time. And so what that means is like, I'm really comfortable for the conversation to go anywhere, because like it's all on their like side of the table, and then I can go away and process it. I can decide what that means for me. I can kind of like figure that out like on my own. And if something feels like it shifts my perspective of life, then great. If it doesn't, great. Like there's nothing that's gonna like push my sense of reality if I'm not naturally kind of going there. And so like that really served me for a while, but then it stopped serving me when I had a bit of a crash, a bit of a burnout, and a bit of some relationships fell apart. So I had trust issues and that kind of thing as well. And so I wasn't as confident in myself. And because I wasn't as confident in myself, I wasn't basically intelligent enough. I don't know what the right thing is, but I'm going to say intelligent enough to be in the other person's court, to really sense where they are, how they're feeling, who they're being, and to kind of like maybe hold them, I suppose. So without that being in place, suddenly I was in this like super vulnerable place where people would be up in my court and I didn't know how to deal with that, and people would maybe suggest things that I wouldn't know how to handle, and so that's, I think, like a large part of why it took me like a year or 2 years to kind of like slowly build myself out of that and kind of recover out of that. And the question that it kind of like leaves me with towards like at this point is like, is it possible to really develop these skills of being able to be like kind of like my vulnerable self? I feel like I can with like really close friends, but I wonder if like I can with maybe like strangers, maybe quite aware and present strangers perhaps, but with strangers where I can kind of like show a side of me that is quite unsure, or just that is really my vulnerable real self underneath, so to speak. And to have that person maybe suggest things in a really well boundaried way, maybe suggest things in a really poorly boundaried way, and for me to be able to kind of handle that in whatever's the most appropriate way, and to kind of grow. Because I kind of feel like my learning over the last kind of several years is basically like, I haven't got the skills to always be safe in like expressing my real core self to somebody else. So that was like a big thing that came for me. I guess I'm going to discover the answer by just trying to build the skills and seeing how far I get. But if people have like thoughts on that, then that'd be interesting for sure. That was the main thing I wanted to find a way to express.
Cool, and you're doing it right now. Like everything you're wanting to do, you just did it. So that was really beautiful. And the clarity with which you shared it, like this is a great practice space. Because the way that you just shared it is so clear that that's hard for anybody to misunderstand, right? You could take that to somebody who has really poor boundaries, and you can say, you know, I have something vulnerable to share. I feel a little bit scared. I feel like a little bit of a danger of being trampled on. So I just want you to know the context, and then that will make somebody more emotionally intelligent just by your putting that out there. So they don't have to sense into your energy and interpret it. You're actually telling them straightforwardly. So you did a great job.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to check in, see if there's anybody else that wants to respond with what Jerome was saying. Cool. Thank you, Jerome. That was awesome. Okay, so this is sort of last call until we go into Hilmar's guided meditation. So if anybody wants to chime in anything else that's wanting to be expressed before that.
Can I just chime in and say thank you? Thank you to each and every one of you. So much that you have expressed in this has resonated with me, and I can feel in my body, and just you've expressed so beautifully. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Likewise, and really great to have you here, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in the group. I mean, I've really enjoyed this session. It's been quite intense at stages, but what Mai was saying earlier, you know, about taking this time on the lockdown, you know, to sort of investigate into yourself. I've found myself going out into nature a lot more, you know, and observing the divinity of the things that are around me, streams and trees and stuff like that. So actually having the time to stop in a place and meditate, or maybe do a drum journey, or, you know, because work in life sometimes takes over what happens in our lives. So we've had this time to reflect, you know, and join groups like this and investigate into things about what we're interested in, you know, where we find our values in reality, you know, and then segregate the things that are negative, we don't want in our paradigm, you know. So I think this lockdown thing has given us the opportunity to do that, and, you know, become more of the divine spiritual beings that we want to be. I've seen that out in society quite a lot just recently, and people opening up, like what Peter was saying earlier, with the heart, and understanding that the heart is the brain that we want to speak from. But sometimes it's very difficult to do that, because obviously, you know, you've got your protection, your layers as an onion, you know, to block those things coming out. But, you know, in groups like this, to try and stay present and try and, you know, speak from the heart and the divinity as best as you can. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you to you all for allowing us in this group today, and the flux and the share of energy that I've experienced. So it's been very good. Thank you.
Really well put, Jason. Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm grateful for your sharing, and you know, your first time here has been really nice. And yeah, thank you for everybody. Yeah, before we go into the meditation, I don't want to get too cerebral after the meditation, so you can kind of stay in that space, and then you can go into your day and do what you want to do after that. So I just want to say before that if you'd like to continue with the group, please contact me, and we can move forward with that. And if you want to add me on Facebook, regardless, it'd be great. I'd like to just connect with everybody who I'm not connected with. And then after the meditation, we do a little team meeting with Chanel and Katie and Hilmar and myself. So we'll say goodbye to you, and then if the facilitators can stay on with me, that'd be great. And yeah, with that, I'll say thank you, and I'll hand it over to Hilmar. And at the end, you feel free to say goodbye, or if you're still like in a meditative space, you don't even have to say goodbye. You can do whatever you want. So I just want to honor whatever is true for you after the meditation. So Hilmar, please.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I want to take the meditation in a bit different direction than what I have done in the past. So yeah, and my son is playing his guitar almost loud, so it's kind of, I wanna ask my son to not play his guitar right now. So if you guys would bear with me for a little while, and while I'm doing so, then please.
We can't hear it, so I don't know if it bothers you.
Yeah, so please find a, well, it's just a matter of him like pushing one button, and then it's pretty wild. He has an electric guitar, so so he's yeah, experimenting with that. So while I'm asking my son to do so, then please find a good meditative pose, and please in a good sitting posture, so that yeah, I'm gonna do that now.
Maybe I'll do a quick restroom break for myself. So maybe if you need to use the restroom, it's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Okay.
Hilmar, do you have a preference if people have their cameras on? Do you need to see them, or?
No, I mean, that's only if I'm doing energy or healing or some sorts, then I need to see them. So, but now it's more important that they would see what I'm doing. So
yeah, okay.
So this particular exercise is a type of energetic cleansing, and it allows for the sushumna to open up in the center of our spine. And so it's a breathing exercise, and we are going to set our focus on the orange chakra, the Hare chakra, and the breathing. So I'm gonna take the camera here and gonna do like so. So look here. Here is my chakra here, my orange chakra. And I breathe in through the nose, and I hope you guys hear this. It's like out through the mouth. So then you have your hands above your Hare chakra, the orange one. And so the breathing is in through the nose, out through the mouth. And you have to keep your eyes open for this one, because this is an energetic cleanse. And throughout this whole breathing exercise, eyes are to be open. So we put our hands on our thighs here and just go into normal breathing. Keep eyes open, eyes to be open, normal breathing. Normal breathing, and you can feel a release, yeah? And so for the next part, then we take our hands, we put them behind our back, like so. And we do the same thing with the stomach, goes inwards through the nose, out through the mouth. Try to stretch your elbows upwards. Try to have as straight a back as possible. Keep your eyes open still. And now come down with the hands on the thighs again, on your knees, and just normal breathing. So, and the reason why we do this before the meditation is that I have found that this particular breathing exercise is extremely enhancing to all energetics when it comes to meditation. So I just wanted to show you this and share this with you. So, and now while we have our hands where we have them, then we go and we continue with our breathing. Eyes wide open. And now, just sense into the body. Feel how the spine might be feeling inside the spine. Is there more like spaciousness, like more airiness inside the spine and all the way up to the head? Like it feels like you're cleansing. And so the next, for the next part of this is a mudra, a hand mudra. Here is my right hand. So please put your right hand in the air also. Here is my thumb. And look here, like here is the index finger, and there's a point here between the index finger and this one here. And then we take the index finger of the other hand, and then we close it. So we make so we're holding it like so, and there's like a certain energetic point which is there, and we're holding it from both sides. So, and it's important that you have it like between the fingers, that you're pinching here between the fingers. How you're doing it, like you're holding here between fingers here, like so. Yeah. Do you get it? Okay, and then we close it by closing here. So it's like two circles, but the one is enclosing on the hand, and it's an energetic point here, right between here. Yes, that looks fine, Jerome. And Sarah Lay, let me see. Yeah, that looks good too. Yeah, and Amy, you got it also. Q, you also have it. Flick, let me see your hand on the other side. Yeah, it seems to be nice there. No, not like, so it's like this here, like so, and then so holding with the thumb inside the hand and with the index finger outside of the hand, and then you're holding it here, right? So, yeah. So it might seem a bit. So let's take it the other way around. So here, my right hand still. So, and this is the index finger of my left hand, and I'm putting it here, right? And now I'm taking my thumb here on my left hand, and I'm closing at the same point. And now I'm taking these two, like thumb and index on the other one, and I'm closing that off too, right? That was maybe easier, yeah? Okay. So, and maintain this position. Let me see it, Jason. Yeah, perfect. Put it down into your lap, like the hands, and hold this. Just pressure, don't pressure too hard, just, gentle pressure, yeah? And so this mudra creates an energy in your field of you being able to hold yourself and to be able to carry yourself. And you can gather your own energies also. So we hold the mudra and we say a word to enforce it, and this word is swastika. And please, everyone, unmute yourself and let me hear you guys with me here.
Swastika.
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 Let's try and do it like in unison, yeah? So, swastika.
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 And try and see if you can sense an energetic change while in between saying the word again and again. Close your eyes, hold the mudra.
Swastika.
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 Let it be like a sigh of relief when you say it, like swastika.
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 Swastia.
Swastia.
Oh wow, can you feel that? Swastia.
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 With our eyes closed, we sense into the energetic changes that are happening.
Swastia.
We, with our inner voice, without saying it out loud, we scream inside ourselves, all of my energies return back to me with extreme authority. All of my energies return back to me. All of my energies return back to me. And then we go back to Swastia.
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 This is Sanskrit, right?
Yeah. Swastia.
Swastia. Swastia.
Swastia. Swastia.
Swastia. Swastia.
Swastia.
Swastia.
Swastia.
Swastia.
We, while still holding the mudra, we focus on our third eye. We focus on our third eye. Jason. Jason,
sorry.
Get yourself together, man.
Sorry.
No. So we focus now on our third eye. And we see a tunnel from the third eye down to our pineal gland. We breathe air into this third eye and all the way down into the pineal gland. Your noses.
Maybe we could all mute ourselves again now.
Yeah, please mute yourself. Yeah, I forgot to say that, yeah. So we focus on our third eyes, and there's a tunnel there from the third eye, an energetic one, to our pineal gland in the center of our brain. And we breathe air in, like you visualize a small column of light forming in front of your forehead while you breathe in, and the light is gathered inside this tunnel going down into your pineal gland, nourishing your pineal gland, touching the center of your pineal gland. Focusing on the third eye and the light collected there. Breathing in through our noses, the light going into the pineal gland. Breathing in, light going through the tunnel in the third eye down into the pineal gland and opening up towards our crown chakra, opening up towards the sun. We now release our hand mudra. We put our hands on our knees and we start focusing our attention like 10, 15 inches above the head. This is the 8th chakra, the soul star. Focus on your soul star above your head. Please keep your eyes closed. Focus on your soul star above your head. And feel how the openness of your crown chakra reacts to your soul star. And we empty our lungs of air, empty them fully, empty the lungs of air. And when we inhale, a column of light shoots downwards from our 8th chakra down through the spine, about 10 to 15 inches under our body. And then it forms a ball around us, filling up our chakra, our aura, I meant. And now let's fold our hands in front of our heart. And with our mind's eye, we see how we gather white soul light between our hands. Focus. Gather our soul light between our hands. And then we move our hands slowly upwards towards the 8th chakra above our head. And then we place this ball of light from our heart inside. Just sense into it. Where is your 8th chakra? Just sense into it, like intuitively. Put the ball of light into your 8th chakra. And then look at me. You form a triangle, you move like so here, and you stop here. And fold your hands again in front of your heart. And then we say thank you. Yeah. And it was a really good meeting today. It was very there was a lot of meat on the hook, as we would say. Like there was a lot of sustenance to go by, to work with, what we come, you know, in becoming forward in time with what was said here and the sharing that took place. Very heartfelt, very empowering, very human. I'm very grateful. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Helma.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye for now.
Thank you so much, guys. I feel like I learned something from everybody in this call today.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you.
Being here. Thank you, Jerome.